hints that he's nearing the end of a legendary career. Woods, who has dealt with numerous injuries, is prepping for his 25th Masters this week at Augusta. He's won the Masters 5 times. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson. More news, opinions, and conversation when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
Connection established.
Access granted.
In a survey conducted by the public opinion research firm Eviderus, KBLA Talk 1580 consistently emerged as the station of choice for black audiences in the Los Angeles media market and beyond. The survey also revealed that the vast majority of black audiences are concerned about the lack of black-owned media and are more likely to listen to talk radio that focuses on issues that impact the black community. For some reason, the other talk stations haven't quite figured that out.
If you think about KFI, well, KFI only has like a 3% black listenership. 3%. So there's a good 97% out there to support a station like KBLA.
At KBLA Talk 1580, we've got your black. Your black. Your black.
1, 2, 3, go! Try to keep it coming. Things ain't always smooth, but I'll be alright as long as I can find the groove. Yes, I will. Somehow I know that I can make it. You seem to like my style. Don't you worry, I'm gonna be around a while. Yes, I will. I'm just happy to see you talk to me back in style again.
Live from Leimert Park, USA, I'm Tavis Smiley. You're listening to KBLA Talk 1580. So glad to see you and me back in stride again. Our phone number, 1-800-920-1580, 1-800-920-1580. All of our socials can be found at KBLA 1580. That's Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube, everything at KBLA 1580. Let me also invite you right now to download our app at KBLA 1580. Get the app and take us with you anywhere in the world and listen to us in real time, but only by downloading our app right now at KBLA 1580. Should you miss us any day in real time, check out the podcast of our program by going to the app, the website, Anchor, Spotify, Apple, so many places to get the podcast and listen at your leisure should you miss us any day in real time. But I am delighted to have you along live with us today. You can also watch the live stream of this program by tapping on the KBLA TV icon on our app or by going to our YouTube channel. Let me also finally invite you to follow me on Facebook and Instagram at The Real Tavis Smiley and get Twitter updates at Tavis Smiley. A great show on tap for you today in our second hour.
Excuse me, Mr. X. Hi. I've read some of your speeches, and I honestly believe that a lot of what you have to say is true. And I'm a good person in spite of what my ancestors did. I wanted to ask you, what can a white person like myself, who isn't prejudiced, what can I do to help you and further your cause?
Nothing. Classic scene from Spike's movie Malcolm X. In our second hour, a conversation about representation, identity, and allyship. How non-black fellow citizens, like the white woman in that clip, can support the black community with New York Times and USA Today bestselling author Austin Channing Brown. We'll talk to Austin Channing Brown in hour 2 about allyship. In our third hour, did First Lady Jill Biden just have another racist moment? We will talk about the false equivalency of First Lady Jill Biden's White House invitation to the runner-up Iowa women's basketball team alongside the national champs, the LSU women's basketball team. The First Lady has since walked back her dual invitation, but the damage was already done, and the cognitive dissonance, it seems to me, in her comments was, for some folk, both revealing and disturbing on a number of levels. Award-winning author, historian, and cultural critic, Dr. Coretha Mitchell, joins us to unpack the deeper issues at play here in hour 3. But in this first hour,
And I never thought anything like this
could happen in America. Never thought it could happen. The only crime that I have committed is to fearlessly defend our nation from those who seek to destroy it. Or our elections were like those of a third world country. And now this massive election interference at a scale never seen before in our country, beginning with the radical left, George Soros-backed prosecutor Alvin Bragg of New York. He wanted to get President Trump at any cost, and this before he knew anything about me, didn't know a thing about me. He was campaigning. This fake case was brought only to interfere with the upcoming 2024 election, and it should be dropped immediately. The criminal is the district attorney because he illegally leaked massive amounts of grand jury information for which he should be prosecuted. And this is where we are right now. I have a Trump-hating judge with a Trump-hating wife and family. Incredibly, we are now a failing nation. We are a nation in decline. And now these radical left lunatics want to interfere with our elections by using law enforcement. With all of this being said, and with a very dark cloud over our beloved country, I have no doubt, nevertheless, that we will make America great again. Thank you.
Donald Trump speaking last night at his Mar-a-Lago resort in Florida following his arrest and arraignment earlier Tuesday in Manhattan, making him, as you well know by now, the first former, or for that matter, current president in the history of our republic to be twice impeached, indicted, arrested, and arraigned. Pleased to be joined now by the president and CEO of the venerable NAACP, Derek Johnson. Mr. President, how are you today, sir?
Good afternoon. How are you doing? Or morning, your time.
Yeah, morning, my time. How are you today, sir?
I'm pretty good. How are you doing?
Man, if I complained, I'd be an ingrate. I'm delighted to be with you in this hour. A lot to talk about. I should say later in this hour, we're expecting a phone call from Brandon Johnson. The mayor-elect of the city of Chicago is going to phone in and talk to us for a few minutes while we have the president of the NAACP on the line. So we'll get to that phone call whenever it comes in this hour, but I want to commence immediately our dialogue with the president, again, of the NAACP, president and CEO, Derek Johnson. I don't need to ask any deep question here. You saw what happened yesterday. You heard the clips from Donald Trump last night. Your thoughts, sir, and we'll jump from there.
Well, personally, I think it was overdue that a district attorney somewhere in this country stepped up and to hold him accountable. No person should be above the law. But more importantly, the American people should see that the justice system actually applies to everyone, particularly those who have taken up office to carry out a duty. And we know this guy is someone who is dangerous, to say the least. And so I commend the district attorney Bragg for actually having the courage to do what was necessary so that people can see that the law also applies to him, and can't wait to see what happens with the district attorney in Georgia.
Mm-hmm. There are a number of things to interrogate based on that one response. Let me start with this. When you say that you congratulate Alvin Bragg, who's been a guest on this program, we'll have him back as soon as he can get us on his schedule. When you say you thank him for having the courage to prosecute Donald Trump, unpack that word courage in that particular sentence. Why is it courage to your mind?
Well, in many ways, we shouldn't be commending someone to do their job, but obviously you have U.S. attorneys in New York, you have other jurisdictions in this country that know of violations by the former president, and yet no one has pulled the trigger. Mm-hmm. And that is because of political considerations. Well, for someone to say, I have sworn to uphold the rule of law, I'm going to do my job despite any threats to my life, to my family, to any public attacks, I'm going to do my job. You commend an individual for doing so, because for some, it takes more courage to do that than others.
Mm-hmm. The second point I want to get to that you've raised already is that Alvin Bragg is, in fact, a DA. He is not a U.S. attorney. He is not a special prosecutor. He is historic in that he's the first African American to be the DA in Manhattan. So that's a big deal, along with Eric Adams being an African American mayor there. But he is a DA, and there are those who are concerned. I raised this issue with others, but not with the president of the NAACP, so I want to get your take on this. There are those who are concerned that we are now on a slippery slope, that at the local jurisdictional level in the years to come, we will have prosecutors playing partisan politics. There'll be Republican DAs in the years to come to go after Joe Biden and perhaps other Democrats, because we've begun this process now where even at the local level, at the regional level, if you want to bring a case against a former president, or for that matter, a current president, you have the authority to do so. Do you think, sir, we are now on a slippery slope?
No, they've always had the authority to do so. If you break the law in a particular jurisdiction, you broke the law. Mm-hmm. The question has been, in this scenario, when should this person be brought to account for any actions that has allegedly taken place? And that if his lawyer was prosecuted and ultimately pled guilty for the same crime scenario, why shouldn't he be brought to justice the same? Mm-hmm. What's ironic here is his lawyer was brought to justice by a U.S. attorney. Mm-hmm. Why did the U.S. attorney office in that same district bring the former president to justice? It is very important to understand the authority and the power of district attorneys across this country. They are the first line of civility in this nation. They determine who gets charged, who's not charged, what charges are brought to bear, and which individuals walk away. That's why you see the over-prosecution of African Americans across this country and the under-prosecution of those of high wealth. It is high time for us to look at a justice system that's more just and get away from the tropes of partisanship and anything else that people try to put in the air. If you break the law, you should be addressed for your crimes. And in this case, absent some miracle, this individual should be brought, case should be brought to him not only in this district, but we have to look at what took place in the Atlanta during that election cycle as well. Mm-hmm. We had a problem with the former president. Not only did white supremacy germinate from the White House, he broke traditional norms around what should be acceptable and not acceptable.
Mm. Just getting started here in this first hour today with the president and CEO of the NAACP, Derek Johnson. When we come forward, I want to interrogate and probe the point he just made now, which is correct, obviously, that it was the U.S. Attorney's Office that brought his lawyer to justice, Michael Cohen. He served time, as you well know. So the U.S. Attorney brought Mr. Trump's lawyer to justice, but it took a local DA in Manhattan to bring Donald Trump to justice, and the same may be said of Fannie Willis in Fulton County. So why did the U.S. Attorney not bring Mr. Trump to justice, but indeed brought his lawyer to justice? It's an interesting point. We'll probe that and a great deal more as we move through this hour with the president of the NAACP, Derek Johnson, who you're listening to right now on KBLA Talk 1580.
We've got a lot to talk about. Good thing we've got 3 hours. More of Tavis Smiley when we come forward. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
Hi, Maisha Cairo here, KBLA, live at Chase Bank on Crenshaw and Vernon for the In This Together tour with female business owners, a day of empowerment, community panels, and best of all, tips on building business from marketing to capital. I was able to speak with one of the panelists, the owner of Kids Love. Take a listen.
So Kids Love, KIDSLUV, is a first-to-market zero-sugar, vitamin-enhanced functional beverage for kids.
So the zero sugar is really important because if not, the sugar gets on the teeth, it can cause cavities. So as a mom, I love this vitamins and hydration in one. Tell us what's happening here with Chase Bank today.
So I would say, I think what Chase is trying to do is create a community, actually, for entrepreneurs, a place where people can go. They have the space to do it. It's a beautiful space. And to be able to have these conversations. There are so many benefits to being a women-owned and certified business, from a standpoint of getting into stores, not paying the slotting fees of what it takes to be in stores. So I think Chase is trying to bring awareness to a lot of the things that people just don't know about, that not only the bank can help, but outside of the bank, their relationships can help create.
That's beautiful. And I know, this is how we build equity in communities of color, is kind of spreading that information and that knowledge. So thank you for being here today and doing your part and letting these women know that it is possible.
For KBLA 1580, I'm Maisha Cairo in the community with Chase.
Person Lynn Law Office is your go-to attorney for criminal cases. That's why we support the right to a fair trial for Los Angeles Council Member Mark Ridley Thomas. Call me at 424-261-2075 if you're facing any criminal offenses.
Like bones, your teeth lose density and become weaker over time, which can lead to tooth decay. And that can make your visit to the dentist feel like this. But if you want your dental visit to feel like this, try Crest Densify. Crest Densify actively rebuilds tooth density to extend the life of teeth by remineralizing enamel. Densify from Crest, the #1 toothpaste brand in America. Smile, Crest has you covered.
At the United States Postal Service, we're reinventing our network to help keep your business moving. With new shipping options to deliver better value, greater flexibility to conveniently reach your customers, more confident shipping with new informed delivery features, and new electric vehicles for a cleaner, brighter future. Fast, reliable, perfectly orchestrated. The United States Postal Service, delivering for America. Learn more at USPS.com/movingforward.
Let's unpack a little bit more with Tavis Smiley. The conversation continues right now.
It does indeed with the president and CEO of the NAACP, Derek Johnson, one day after this historic arrest and arraignment of a former U.S. president, Donald Trump. You could not have missed this story if you wanted to. It is international news today, and we're delighted to be in dialogue with the president and CEO, again, of the venerable NAACP, who made a powerful point a moment ago that it took the U.S. attorney to bring Mr. Trump's lawyer, Michael Cohen, to justice, that is, but it took a local DA. And I might add an African-American DA. We'll get to that a little bit later, perhaps. But it took a local DA in Manhattan to bring Mr. Trump to justice. What do you make of that, President Johnson?
I think you have an individual who is not scared of the political winds and the current political realities across this country, that's rooted in white supremacy, and decided that if in that same district where 5 brothers were unjustly charged for raping a white woman in Central Park, and it was Trump who was behind that if they should be brought to injustice, that the person who instigated that whole scenario in the 80s should be brought to justice. And that's just the reality. If we are in these seats of power as African Americans, after all of the sacrifices to ensure that we could be elected those seats, and we go in there and do what that was always been done, that we should be in those seats. We should go in there and ensure that when we take that oath, that we carry out our duties, and we do so without any discrimination based on individuals' status of life, standing, wealth, or racial makeup.
This clearly, as we all know, this being what happened yesterday, is historic, it is rare, it is unprecedented. Given your critique now of our criminal justice, or as some call it, our criminal injustice system, do you think that what happened yesterday, because there were many people who were suspicious and suspect all along whether or not that day would ever come, where he would be, in fact, brought to justice, and we ain't done yet. As you know, there are 4 other investigations, which you and I will talk about in a second, that could be far more damaging and far more serious for the former president than the one that they caught him on yesterday. But my question is whether or not, given your critique of the criminal justice system, do you think that yesterday's arrest and arraignment of a former president, obviously a white male, does anything to restore faith in our justice system?
It's the beginning of a process. So we'll see how the process play out. Mm-hmm. More importantly, based on news accounts, that there was an investigation, there was evidence gathered, it was presented to a grand jury. The grand jury heard the evidence, and after hearing that, they decided to vote to indict. It's the beginning of the process. NAACP, we witnessed, like everyone else in this country, January 6th attack on the Capitol. We witnessed the president do nothing, and when he finally said something some hours later, it wasn't to calm down the terrorist attack on our U.S. Capitol by treasonous. It was basically to incite. That's why we filed a lawsuit against him immediately following January 6th. If we allow this level of lawlessness to continue, we are all at risk. And for black folks in this country, we know for a fact that when you allow individuals to operate above the law, to commit treason, to allow for domestic terrorism to take place, and no one is held accountable, you only guarantee more acts of domestic terrorism and lawlessness. That's what we fought against during the Civil Rights Movement. That's what we must fight against now. And this person that happened to occupy the White House in the previous administration is a menace to society. Full stop.
Yep. I think you and I agree, Mr. President, that this arrest and arraignment of Donald Trump yesterday signals the beginning, to your point, the beginning of the law catching up to Donald Trump. I'm not so sure that I buy the argument that many have made that this underscores the fact that no person is above the law. It's a phrase we all love to use, that nobody is above the law. I'm not sure that it indicates that. And let me just try my thesis out on you and get your take on it. As I said a moment ago, the indictment, the arrest, the arraignment, and now the prosecution of Donald Trump is historic. It is rare. It is unprecedented. It is clear that all kinds of folk in this country, for a variety of reasons, and I might add legitimate reasons, wanted to bring Donald Trump to justice. We don't need to even go there. We know the politics on that. And again, underscore the word legitimately. He legitimately needed, I believe, as many other fellow citizens do, to be brought to justice. But let's be clear. He is Donald Trump. And that's why you got 5 investigations chasing him, because they are determined to get him, as Malcolm might say, who we quoted earlier in that clip. They're determined to get Donald Trump by any means necessary. I, again, underscore the word legitimately. He's earned it. He's asked for it. You do the crime, you do the time. But clearly they were going to get Donald Trump, and they ain't going to stop in these other 4 cases. So that's Donald Trump. That does not necessarily suggest to me that with regard to everybody else, white males included, that this incident yesterday, the happenings of yesterday, means that no person is above the law. I'm not sure I buy that. You take my point?
No, I agree with you there. I mean, to be clear, money speaks in this country,
yes.
And the higher wealth you are, the more you know how to maneuver the system and manipulate the outcome. The whiter you are with high wealth, you're even better at it. And so that's just the reality of this country. It's an unfortunate reality. The poorer you are, the more likely you're stuck in jail. You would not have gotten released on your own recognizance so you can get into your entourage, to get on your private plane, to go back to Mar-a-Lago and get on a microphone and make all type of false claims. That's not someone that's operating within the law. That's someone who's operating with a level of entitlement. Mm-hmm. That's absolutely true. I agree with you. But we have to start this process so that we can right-size what has been out of whack for centuries. Mm-hmm. And for centuries, white men have operated with a level of impunity against everyone else, causing harm. And at some point, that when you have an elected official like District Attorney Bragg that's in place, he cannot afford to do what has always been done. He must uphold what he swore to do and do his job.
Yep. Yeah, I want to believe that just because we are, again, at the beginning of the law catching up to Mr. Trump, that means that all the rest of us who happen to have melanin in our skin are now a part of a system that's going to be fair and just and balanced and righteous. I'm not sure I buy it just because they got him, because they were determined to get him.
Not.
Yeah. that's my
it's not. No.
Yeah, that's my only point.
Yeah.
There.
No. The system will be how fair, just it becomes is based on those who take it as their responsibility to create that reality. And that can go either way. I grew up in Detroit. I grew up in the blackest city in America.
Oh, yeah.
And as a result of growing up in the blackest city of America, I've seen unjust stuff happen black on black.
Mm-hmm.
But the issue is the system is going to be. It is for us to make sure the system reflects the level of integrity we think it should, or if we become too lax, it turns out to be what it's going to be.
Yeah. Let me ask this right quick. I'm looking at my clock here. I've got news, traffic, and sports in about 3 minutes. Let me try to get a couple things out right quick, and we'll continue, of course, on the other side for the rest of the hour. Broadly speaking, what is your take? What's your read of the Republican response at the moment to what happened yesterday, or lack thereof?
Cowardly. Absolutely cowardly. You know, many of them who immediately who was speaking private about how he's a problem. Several of them who spoke out against him after January 6th only to reverse course. They are cowardly. That is no longer a Republican Party. It is a party that's beholden to him and the reaction that they fear he may have in terms of their base. Unfortunately, the Republican Party, they're running out of white people. And as a result of that, they start campaigning and operating to the lowest common denominator and fear-mongering. And as a result, we have some of the most vicious individuals who are now populating the party, controlling the masses of their vote, that individuals who normally of reasonable minds cannot operate because they are in fear, they're paralyzed. And it's unfortunate. Yeah. Absolutely unfortunate. If any of them had committed much of what he did, a number of them would actually have already been taken out of office and or convicted.
Yeah. As I watched Donald Trump at that podium last night at Mar-a-Lago speaking to that crowd and watched the cheering and the enthusiasm and all of that, my mind went to Senator Lindsey Graham's comment that this indictment, arrest and arraignment and now prosecution of Donald Trump all but ensures, this is Lindsey Graham, all but ensures that he is going to be the nominee for the party in 2024. In 60 seconds, how do you respond to Lindsey Graham's assertion?
Which would mean it all but ensures that he will lose in the general election.
All right, that was succinct. I take it. Lindsey Graham says it ensures that he will be the nominee, and President Derek Johnson of the NAACP says it all but ensures that he will then lose the general election. We shall see how all this plays out. A half hour to go as we continue our conversation in this first hour with the president and CEO of the NAACP on the day after the arrest and arraignment of the 45th president of these United States. You are listening to KBLA Talk 1580, and we're glad about it.
Be sure to like and follow Tavis Smiley at The Real Tavis Smiley and get Twitter updates at Tavis Smiley. The conversation continues when we come forward.
I'm Mike Moore. Here's the latest from the Black Information Network. In Georgia, a civil rights activist is taking a stand against Atlanta's new public safety training center. African-American Angela Davis was honored with a proclamation by the city at last month's Walter Rodney Symposium. She said this week that she felt compelled to return the award to stand in solidarity with the activist. The Walter Rodney Foundation stood by Davis's position, saying the city's leadership is acting in defiance of the wishes of Black residents. General Motors officials say they will not need to make any salaried job layoffs after enough white-collar workers have agreed to take a voluntary buyout. CEO Mary Barr said in an email they have saved around $1 billion due to cuts announced in February and the employees who chose to leave. And that's the latest. I'm Mike Moore from your 24/7 news source, the Black Information Network, and BINnews.com.
Siglet in Buena Park has the carpooling shut down on the 5 south over the 91. Traffic really tough as you make way past the 91 interchange. Got a crash in mid-Lane, move to the right-hand shoulder, 10 westbound at Crenshaw Boulevard. 2 seeing some slowing from Normandy Avenue. And an accident reported now in Long Beach on the 91 westbound to the 710. That's got the right lane blocked off by a couple big rigs. You're going to slow down back at Atlantic Avenue. Crash in Santa Fe Street, move to the shoulder, 605 south on a Telegraph. Expect delays still from Beverly Boulevard.
If your company needs to spring into efficient hiring, then check out Indeed. Their powerful hiring platform makes it easy to attract, interview, and hire candidates. Visit Indeed.com/credit and get $75 towards your first sponsored job. Terms and conditions apply.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
The Lakers extend their winning streak to 4 with a 2-point victory at Utah in overtime. First win for the Lakers in Utah since 2019. The Lakers and Clippers jump it up tonight at Crypto.com. First game for Russell Westbrook against the Lakers since they traded him in February. University of Iowa women's basketball star Caitlin Clark defended Angel Reese, saying the LSU star should not be criticized for her actions in Sunday's championship game. Reese is catching static for taunting Clark near the end of the game with the "you can't see me" hand gesture. 47-year-old Tiger Woods is dropping hints that he's nearing the end of a legendary career. Woods, who has dealt with numerous injuries, is prepping for his 25th Masters this week at Augusta. He's won the Masters 5 times. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson. More news, opinions, and conversation when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
Tell me I'm the boy that girl.
I'm young, gifted, and black. At KBLA Talk 1580, we do more than just talk.
Hey there, I'm Jared Hill, president of the National Association of Black Journalists of Los Angeles, and I just want to say thank you for the benevolent $10,000 donation and scholarships for the next generation of black journalists.
And I'm Haywood Galbraith, photojournalist and founder of the Minority Photojournalism Institute. Thanks, KBLA, for your generous $10,000 scholarship gift to help us train the next generation of black photojournalists.
Congratulations to all the students who will benefit from the scholarship dollars raised at our Black History Month luncheon, honoring black legends in LA media. When we come forward at KBLA Talk 1580, we're bringing everybody with us. Everybody with us. Everybody with us. Everybody with us. Everybody with us.
This is KBLA Talk 1580. Talk radio. That's music to your ears. We're unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. KBLA Talk 1580. Covering news and breaking news first.
Breaking news here. We've been covering this every day since the trial began. USA v. MRT. The verdicts are in. The jury has found LA City Councilman Mark Ridley Thomas guilty on a number of counts.
Keep it locked to KBLA Talk 1580 for news and analysis about the things that matter most to you. We're unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580, and we've got your black.
Join Black Wealth Matters, an educational series as we explore and explain the Black College Athletes Playbook in a 5-part series starting April 6th. Dr. Davarian Baldwin, an award-winning scholar and author, seen in Time, CNBC, and more, helps us follow the college dollars. Coach John Mosley, fan favorite of Netflix's docuseries Last Chance U, covers the new world of the college athletes. David McGriff, one of the leaders in the NIL and sports world and owner of the McGriff Agency, explains NIL and the effects on black athletes. Keisha Richardson gives the challenges of raising a black athlete. And last, for the bonus series, we want to give athletes the tools to capitalize from their name and likeness with swimming bronze medalist from the 2021 Paralympics, Jamal Hill. There is no cost for the series. It's a live webinar. Questions are welcome. Register on KBLA1580.com.
Broadcasting live from Leimert Park, USA. Welcome back to your home for unapologetically progressive radio. KBLA Talk 1580.
We will continue our conversation with the president and CEO of the NAACP, Derek Johnson, in a moment. I am pleased to be joined on the phone right now, just for a few moments, by the mayor-elect of the city of Chicago, Brandon Johnson. They said this couldn't happen. He was in the back in the pack some weeks ago, and this brother did the impossible. I read 1,000 articles this morning, people trying to figure out how he pulled it off. Congratulations, Mayor-elect Brandon Johnson. How are you, sir?
Hey, Brother Tavis, man, I'm doing well. Thanks for asking. It's an incredible moment for the city of Chicago. We united the city around working class values, and I'm thrilled. I'm humbled by it, and of course, I'm looking forward to this transition period, and of course, being sworn in on May 15th.
Yeah, just 3 or 4 questions. I know you got a full schedule, and I'm just honored that you put KBLA Talk 1580 on your docket today. First of all, what do you make of the day on which you won this historic election? It was the 55th anniversary of Dr. King's assassination. Donald Trump is arrested and arraigned. You pulled this off in Chicago. It's a day that I think people will study, historians will study in the years to come, because so much happened on that day. What do you make of the day yesterday of your historic victory?
Well, I'm certainly looking forward to the historians pulling it together, so I'm counting on you and Dr. Cornell to pull something together quickly. As a social studies teacher, it is a remarkable, testament to, what, Reverend Martin Luther King Jr. Did, which he brought people together. At a very horrific time in our nation's history. And so to see the culmination of that work, of a multicultural, intergenerational movement, again, of black, brown, white, Asian, young, old, middle-class families, low income, people living in poverty, they all recognize that a better, stronger, safer Chicago is ultimately what's going to unite us. Mm-hmm. And the type of, platform that we moved on was not that much different. In fact, it was pretty much identical to what Reverend Martin Luther King Jr. and all of his allies, begin to unite around, affordable housing, fair housing, public education, public transportation, public health, right? Good paying jobs. And like I said last week, environmental justice. That's something that I will go ahead and just make a friendly amendment to our ancestors. Mm-hmm. And as we built that apparatus, alongside of a campaign and a candidacy, the movement did not feel separate from the actual campaign. It was all embedded. And that is something that I believe that Reverend Martin Luther King Jr. Wanted to see. The labor rights movement and the civil rights movement finally colliding. As he said, what enormous potential it would have. And we saw the full manifestation of that on yesterday.
As you know, this radio station, KBLA Talk 1580, brands itself unapologetically progressive, and we are unapologetic about that branding. Clearly, you are an unapologetic progressive, and around the country, you're being heralded now and celebrated by progressives for pulling this off in Chicago yesterday. What do you think your election says to the broader progressive community in this country?
We don't have to hide our values. And Tavis, man, you've been on this for a minute, brother. I've studied your work, Claude Anderson. These are the books that I read, Carter G. Woodson. And what I was always struck by was like how close the movement will get to seeing transformation. And then someone would duck. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And I come from a very large family. My older brother would say, if you're ducking in a fight, you're probably losing. And so what this moment told us that, man, you can actually swing. You know what I'm saying? Like, You can't be in the fight just dodging, right? You got to swing. And, we don't have to run away from our values. And I was raised a certain way. My father was there last night, 80 years old. It was just a remarkable testament. He was a part of the AFSCME union. The first time AFSCME endorsed a candidate since Harold Washington. That's where Dr. King gave his convention speech in 1967 about labor and civil rights coming together. So it's a true testament that as progressives, and particularly as black progressives, especially, or black and brown progressives, like, let's not keep ducking. Like, let's actually throw a punch. And we did that last night. And people will get behind that if they know that you are unapologetic, as you say, about it.
Yep. Here's my exit question. I appreciate your time. I know you got a full schedule. But Karen Bass, of course, elected here in the city of L.A. This station is heard across the country, flagship in Los Angeles. And when she took over, she did not have the luxury, nor do you, of focusing on one thing at a time. Her primary issue, of course, as you know, has been homelessness, and she's making some inroads on that issue. But it didn't take long for critics to start to say, Mayor Bass, we're not a one-issue city, as important as the issue of homelessness is. So how do you tackle a bunch of things at once? In other words, what now, Mayor-elect Brandon Johnson?
Yeah, uniting this city around our collective ideas is really what is top of mind for me. And the way you do it is this: all of these issues have intersectionality. So when we talk about a better, stronger, safer Chicago, that requires us to make sure that we double the amount of young people that we hire, not just for summer, but for year-round positions. 2, we make sure that we invest in treatment, not trauma. The LAPD spoke of this a couple of weeks ago. I read the LA Times.
Mm-hmm.
You know, police officers are not social workers, right? They're not, marriage counselors, right? And so moving towards a system that invests in mental health support. 3, we're also going to address the issue of homelessness and those who are unhoused. We have over 65,000 families unhoused. We're going to do that. We're going to pass an ordinance called Bring Chicago Home that raises revenue to address that. 4, environmental justice. Everyone is concerned about the environment in the city of Chicago. We've had some real horrific encounters, which is poor leadership as it relates to the environment. These are dynamics that we can do, just a few things that we could do within the first 100 days that begins to set up the city of Chicago to unite around all the things that we are saying yes to. Whether you are a moderate, a conservative, or a progressive, no one says don't hire a young person. No one doesn't say give someone somewhere to lay down. No one says no one needs mental health support. And no one says no to environmental justice. Tavis, my job is to get to as many yeses as possible. I'm a middle child. That's how I survived growing up in the house with 10 siblings in one bathroom. We got to get to a yes. And listen, the way my life was, you got to get to a yes as fast as possible.
As fast as you can.
The goal was to leave that house clean, man. So I'm moving with urgency.
Well, you and I are simpatico in that. As you know, I'm one of 10 kids myself, so I know exactly what you speak. Yeah. I know you got a full schedule. Let me just again close by saying congratulations. You a bad man. You pulled this thing off yesterday in Chicago. I look forward to engaging with you in the months and years to come. But congratulations, Mayor-elect Brandon Johnson.
Hey, thank you, Tavis. I look forward to coming back again.
My pleasure, and you're welcome anytime on KBLA Talk 1580.
KBLA Talk 1580 is an intervention. When we come forward, includes you. KBLA Talk 1580, turning pain into power.
LA Mayor Karen Bass and the city attorney announced Skid Row housing preservation and rehab initiative. Maisha Cairo here with your K-Black Minute News. LA Mayor Karen Bass and city attorney Heidi Feldstein Soto recently announced an initiative to preserve and rehabilitate 2,000 housing units in Skid Row. The announcement comes after the Skid Row Housing Trust's recent communication that it would no longer be able to operate the 29 buildings it runs across the city. So this new plan will turn the city's aging downtown real estate into housing for the homeless. In reference to this plan, the mayor says that failure is not an option. Losing nearly 2,000 units of housing would be devastating to Skid Row, and it would be felt citywide, and people would lose their lives. What do you think about this new plan? Let us know on all socials at KBLA 1580.
KBLA 1580 Talk Radio congratulates Sal's Gumbo Shack for this Women's History Month. Surviving the pandemic and social unrest, Sal's Gumbo Shack continued to hold the community up with great food to all that came through the doors. Are you ready for the best gumbo in town? The best po' boy you've had? Sal's Gumbo Shack. We bring the bayou to you with real authentic soul food, Mama and Granny's recipes made with real butter, real love, real everything. Also introducing a healthy option from our jackfruit selection. And there's more. Mouth-watering desserts, peach cobbler, banana pudding, red and blue velvet cake, 7-Up pound cake, homemade with lots of love. To order, call 562-423-2113. That's 562-423-2113. Sal's is also providing training and employment to those serious about a career in the food industry and the opportunity to perhaps own your own Sal's Gumbo Shack one day. Visit salsgumboshack.com or stop by either locations, Bixby Knolls or Long Beach Boulevard. Sal's Gumbo Shack.
Access granted.
In a survey conducted by the public opinion research firm Eviderus, KBLA Talk 1580 consistently emerged as the station of choice for black audiences in the Los Angeles media market and beyond. The survey also revealed that the vast majority of black audiences are concerned about the lack of black-owned media and are more likely to listen to talk radio that focuses on issues that impact the black community. For some reason, the other talk stations haven't quite figured that out.
If you think about KFI, well, KFI only has like a 3% black listenership. 3%. So there's a good 97% out there to support a station like KBLA.
At KBLA Talk 1580, we've got your black. Your black. Your black.
All I need is one mic.
For KBLA Talk 1580, I'm Tavis Smiley with a KBLA editorial. I've said it all along. Presumption of innocence, fundamental fairness, due process. Convicted now on 7 counts in his federal bribery case, LA City Councilman Mark Thomas scarcely got 1, and his chances of getting the other 2 were slim to none, and Slim was out of town. Did you hear the jury forewoman's comments? The jurors were confused by the jury instructions, confused by the answers to the almost 12 questions they sent to the judge. She acknowledged that some jurors were not even paying attention, and she said the jury knew that the $100,000 contribution from MRT was legal, but the way the jury instructions were written made them feel like they had to find MRT guilty of wire fraud. Again, those are her words. So let me offer you just 3 questions that I want you to ponder. 1, why do you think the U.S. government spent millions of dollars of your money going after an alleged $100,000 bribe? 2, USC is in the news almost daily, it seems, for yet another violation of some law or the contestation of somebody else's humanity. But unlike all the other cases, they didn't get caught by some LA Times investigation. No, USC walked this particular case involving a powerful black leader into the U.S. Attorney's Office. Who made that decision, and how and why was it made? 3, while all the focus is on the indictment of Donald Trump, are you paying attention to all the other high-profile black elected officials that are being targeted across the nation by the Justice Department? Joe Biden's Justice Department. I'll let you marinate on that for a second. The judge in one case involving a high-profile black elected threw the charges out and told the government to kick rocks. It doesn't matter who's in charge. The hunting season for black folk is always open. I do not purport to know what's next for MRT. What I do know is that his legacy of love and service to our community is intact. What I do know is that God can turn your shipwreck into a submarine. As for all the rest of us, be vigilant, be sober, be circumspect. Just because you don't believe in conspiracy theories don't mean they ain't after you. For KBLA Talk 1580, I'm Tavis Smiley. We, of course, welcome your comments.
Conversations that matter. You're listening to Tavis Smiley on KBLA Talk 1580.
You are indeed, and we are glad about it. We were talking with Derek Johnson, the president and CEO of the NAACP, when the mayor-elect of Chicago, Brandon Johnson, phoned in, and somehow we lost the president of the NAACP. We're trying to get him back in these last few minutes in this hour. But there are a couple of things I wanted to probe the president about as we continued our conversation following our brief dialogue with, again, Mayor-elect Brandon Johnson in Chicago. First of all, for those who don't know, the 4 largest cities in this country now have African-American mayors. That's Eric Adams in New York, of course, Karen Bass here in Los Angeles, Sylvester Turner in Houston, Lori Lightfoot in Chicago. Brandon Johnson was in a tight race with a white male named Paul Vallis. Had Brandon lost that race yesterday, then that factoid of the 4 largest cities being helmed by African Americans would have changed. But given that Brandon pulled this out yesterday as a progressive in the city of Chicago, means that will remain the case for the time being, where the nation's 4 largest cities will continue to be helmed by African American mayors, and that's a bit of history in and of itself. Here's the statement that Derek Johnson put out not long ago, president of the NAACP. Restoring faith in the justice system is the priority as we recover from years of watching as apparently illegal actions went unaddressed. While the specific charges remain unknown, it's clear that no matter how much more money and power one may attain, they are not absolved of their responsibilities. Today's actions remind Americans that no person is above the law. Today is the beginning of the law catching up to Donald Trump. We intend to continue pursuing justice in our case that will hold him accountable for his actions that led to January 6th as well, close quote. When he says in our case, they have a case filed against him vis-a-vis or in connection to the January 6th insurrection. So there are a number of persons who have lawsuits on the books against the president, former president of these United States, connected to January 6th. The NAACP, according to their president and CEO, will continue to press their particular claim in that regard. The other thing I wanted to, and you heard, of course, if you were listening, you heard President Johnson and I having not a debate, I would call it. He ultimately agreed with my point of view, that although his statement suggests that no person is above the law, that may be true. But that's aspirational at best. It is not actual. It's aspirational. I do not believe, in case you just tuned in, we were discussing this earlier, I don't believe that just because Donald Trump was brought to justice, at least the start of bringing him to justice occurred yesterday, that suggests that nobody is above the law. Donald Trump is a very unique case, and they went after him, they got him, and there were 4 other cases he needs to be more concerned about. Can you imagine how Donald Trump must feel today? How he must feel thinking his entire life that he's always been above the law, that nobody would ever catch up to him doing anything that he would be held accountable for. And here you are now facing the first of what could be 4 additional indictments. You talk about a wake-up call. Good Lord, that's a wake-up call for Donald Trump. The other thing that I want to talk to President Johnson about is that the Florida NAACP, you may have heard this, and if you haven't, now you will. The Florida NAACP has urged black folk to not visit the state. The NAACP Florida State Conference recently voted unanimously in favor of a travel advisory. The recommendation will be reviewed by the National Board sometime next month. I wanted to get President Johnson's take on that. The National Board will take this up. But the Florida chapter of the NAACP, and you well know that Donald Trump gave his remarks last night from Mar-a-Lago in Florida, and you certainly well know that Ron DeSantis has lost his mind as the chief executive officer of the state of Florida with his anti-woke campaign. And the NAACP in Florida has had enough. And they voted again unanimously to put out an advisory to black folk across the country, encouraging them, recommending that they not visit the state of Florida. That would have a huge impact, of course, on their tourism business. As you can imagine, Florida makes a whole lot of money off of tourists. And so the NAACP suggesting that black folks should not travel to that state reminds me of what happened in Arizona years ago when Arizona would not certify Dr. King's birthday as a state holiday. Black folk said, don't come to this state. The NAACP said, don't come to this state. Organizations, institutions, conventions, sporting events started to pull out of going to the state of Arizona. And ultimately, Arizona came to their senses as the last state to codify into law the celebration of Dr. King's birthday as a national holiday. So could this call for a tourism ban in Florida have the same impact in the Sunshine State that it had in Arizona some years ago? Obviously, I won't get a chance to ask him that since we didn't get him back on the line. But you at least are aware now that there is going to be a vote taken at the national NAACP meeting next month about whether or not they are going to support this call by their state chapter in Florida to support this ban. Travel ban in the state of Florida. When we come forward, something that Donald Trump said last night that I find really, really fascinating. He said a lot last night, but there's one thing that just jumped out at me like nothing else in his remarks. I want to address that with you when we come forward. You're listening to Tavis Smiley on KBLA Talk 1580.
A safe place to go loud. A great place for progressive politics. KBLA Talk 1580. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
The rent is too damn high. KBLA joins you in calling for affordable housing. The LA Tenants Union is a diverse, tenant-led movement fighting for the human right to housing for all. The LA Tenants Union demands safe, affordable housing and union rent control. They organize against landlord harassment, mass evictions, and displacement, and mobilize for the repeal of the Ellis Act and Costa-Hawkins Act. The LA Tenants Union is on a mission to strengthen tenants' political power through education, advocacy, and direct action. To get help with your eviction or other landlord-tenant issues, take action for justice, or become a member, visit latenantsunion.org. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
Hey, Dad, how do airplanes fly? What's in this box? Is this tree good for climbing? How are babies made? What does this thing do?
Kids are curious about everything, including guns. Talking to them about gun safety in your home is a good first step, but you can do more. Always keep your guns locked, unloaded, and stored separately from ammunition. Safe gun storage saves lives. Learn how to make your home safer at endfamilyfire.org. That's endfamilyfire.org. Brought to you by End Family Fire, Brady, and the Ad Council.
Are you looking to steer your career in a new direction? Driving for Culver City Bus can be your ticket to a long-lasting career with excellent benefits and paid training. Culver City Bus is looking for customer service and safety-minded bus operators to join the growing team. Culver City Bus offers on-the-job training starting at $19.10 per hour, uniform allowance, and health benefits. Culver City Bus is a great employer. Let Culver City Bus connect you with an essential service job. If you enjoy driving, seek real opportunities for career advancement, and passionate about making a difference in the community, then you are invited to join the Culver City Bus team. Start your journey today by submitting an application at culvercity.org/jobs. For more info, visit culvercitybus.com or call live customer service operators at 310-253-6500. Again, 310-265-6500.
Interrogating your assumptions and expanding your inventory of ideas. Let's get back to Tavis Smiley on KBLA Talk 1580.
So Donald Trump last night in his remarks at Mar-a-Lago sort of teed this up, so I knew this was coming. He went full bore this morning in posting on his platform Truth Social. And here's the point I want to just underscore for you. So Donald Trump has now called for defunding federal police after his arrest and arraignment yesterday in New York. Imagine that. So the party of law and order for time eternal now wants to defund the same party that's beat up on Black Lives Matter for the framing of their defunding protest vis-a-vis police departments across the country. He now has borrowed that language from BLM and has called for the defunding of federal police after yesterday. He's egging on now Republicans in Congress to defund federal law enforcement ahead of a government funding deadline this fall. Let me quote now from Donald Trump's post on Truth Social. And I quote, "Republicans in Congress should defund the DOJ and FBI until they come to their senses. The Democrats have totally weaponized law enforcement in our country and are viciously using this abuse of power to interfere with our already under siege elections," close quote. Again, I want to underscore in that post on Truth Social that he literally used the word defund. So you beat up on BLM and then you appropriate their language, right? He wants Congress to defund the DOJ, Department of Justice, and the FBI until they come to their senses. But then that second sentence, the Democrats, really? The Democrats have totally weaponized law enforcement in our country. But you are the party of law and order and always have been. But now it's the Democrats weaponizing law enforcement and viciously using this abuse of power to interfere with our already under siege elections. I digress. I think you take the point. What a difference a day makes. What a difference a day makes. Donald Trump, who knew, calling for the defunding of federal police. It was a bizarre day yesterday. As I said, the 55th anniversary of the assassination of Dr. King. Brandon Johnson pulls off an historic election in Chicago. A liberal judge wins the seat in Wisconsin, which may in many ways save our democracy on a number of fronts, including reproductive rights and gerrymandering. What a big day. And then, of course, Donald Trump arrested, arraigned, and now will be prosecuted by Alvin Bragg, the first African-American to be DA in Manhattan. What a day it was. All right, there's hour one. 2 more hours to go. You're listening to Tavis Smiley on KBLA Talk 1580.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.